Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chaotic Little Book Corner. Today I'm doing a dual review. These are the two books from my first 2 months in the Mad Woman's book club. There we go. So this is Women of the Asylum, which I read in November, and this is Girl Interrupted, which I reread kind of in December. I've reread it so many times in my life that I already know what it is, and I enjoy it, and it's one of my favorites, so I don't know. Anyway, let's start with November, shall we? Because I have way more to say about that. So this is Women of the Asylum, and this is from the years of 1840 to 1945. This is talking about the experience of different women in different asylums and how they were treated and what the treatments were for people in asylums, what it was like to be a woman in an asylum, what the situation, like, what... It was painful. It was so painful, and each one of the chapters kind of it was really painful. So you would see the first chapter, the beginning of each chapter would have a name, and then you would go through that woman's experience as she lived, and so you would go through like her trials as far as like legal trials, because you know, let's sue the crazy people, that's smart. I couldn't believe how little these people treated women and how disgustingly appalling and disturbing and grotesque the treatment of these women was. I felt that this was a super enraging book for me because I definitely know that had I been born, let's say 10 years earlier than I was, so in 79 versus 89, and I had continued to have the life that I have now, I would have been locked away in some sort of establishment for sure, because my disorder would have been called hysteria, which would have gotten me on all sorts of pills and all this other junk, and I'm aware of this. But if I had been born in these decades, oh my goodness, my treatment would have been horrendous. These women, I think some of them would have rather died than continue the treatment that they had in these facilities. And I don't blame them. It was horrendously disgusting and animalistic and just... it was terrible. It was so terrible. And I found myself feeling more and more anger and rage for those who were being treated as such than anything else, because I found that the more I read, the more I realized they were treating them as crazy because they were female, not because they were sick. And that was what really frightened me. It was almost as if you have a vagina and therefore you are nuts, was the way that these women were treated. Some of them were suffering from postpartum depression. Some of them were suffering from things as simple as, you know, having a traumatic event happen and they just needed to process it, and they would never leave these asylums because their hysteria was too much for the community to have to bear. This is just disturbing, and it's scary, and it's wonderful, and it's a really good adaptation and depiction of it, but it is just, it is gutting. Like, it hit me, and it hit me hard. I highly recommend it if you're interested in the history of mental health for women, but be ready and forewarned. Trigger warnings up the, like, wazoo, and seriously, get ready to get pissed, because, yeah. And then the other one is Girl Interrupted. This one was read in December. I read most of it. I didn't finish it, and the reason I didn't finish it is because I've read it so many times at this point. I think like 15, maybe more. I'm not really sure. This has been a favorite of mine since I was around 14 years old. This is the story of Susanna Kaysen, and it is her memoir going into McLean Hospital in 1967, which is only 20 years after that shit took place. So... apparently it didn't get much better. Just saying. At least she was treated slightly more humane, but at the same time, it really does not glorify mental illness. And that's really what I think is really fascinating about a lot of books that I've read over the past few years talking about mental illness, is how much mental illness can be glorified. There is nothing glorious about having someone watch you while you have to shave your legs so you don't hurt yourself. There is nothing glorious about having to have your door open so that people can come in and stare at you and make sure that you're not hurting yourself. There is nothing glorious about having to stick out your tongue and prove that you swallowed a damn pill. There is nothing glorious about having, you know, these voices speaking to you and feeling completely lost and completely alone, and knowing that you may never ever leave that location that you are in to try and live a normal life. Susanna Kaysen really does a great job of explaining the relationships and the overall companionship and camaraderie that goes on within the asylum walls, and how some of the nurses really do try, but some of them really aren't there for the right reasons. And I think that is a huge issue in the mental health community, is that a lot of people that are in it are not in it for the right reasons. And you should be in it for the right reasons, because otherwise you're going to do more damage than good to those who are suffering. The women that are in this asylum, many of them will never get out. And that is a thing that so many people don't understand, is that some people, their mental illness is so bad that they will never ever recover. And that is a scary thought. I myself may be on medication for the rest of my life, and I know this. I don't know how I feel about it. I also don't know if I feel 100% safe in that situation. I also don't know if I feel good about myself or what that looks like for me. I am really struggling with that, but it's something that I'm learning to deal with. And I really know that they're trying to help, but at the same time, I've gotten lucky and I've found 2 doctors that really care about me and have my best interest at heart. That's not always the case. Susanna Kaysen goes to a therapist in the beginning of this book, and this therapist listens to her for maybe 60 minutes and then sends her off to McLean immediately. It's almost as if they're just trying to get her out of the picture. Susanna is just, you know, speaking her mind, and she's definitely has a mental illness. She is diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, which is something that needs treatment, but at the same time, it shouldn't be shunned out of the realm of, you know, society just because it's easier put away in an asylum than out in the streets. This, to me, felt a lot like the mother and the father were just trying to escape from the fact that their daughter was different rather than help her. I was really saddened by that fact, but it happens, and I think it happens more than we want to think. I got really lucky with my parents, but not everyone is. This book is really, really, really well executed and very, very honest. If you're not ready for honesty, I wouldn't read this. This is not for the weak of heart, and it's not for the ones who are just kind of curious about the mental health industry. I would say if you're kind of curious about the mental health industry, start with Ned Vizzini's It's Kind of a Funny Story instead of this, because this does not hold back. So those are the first 2 books that I have read in the Mad Woman book club. It's on Goodreads. I will link the link to that Goodreads group down below. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm waiting for January's book to arrive. It hasn't arrived yet. So that's a thing. That's a thing. I'm going to keep doing this. Tell me if you would rather see dual reviews or single reviews. Let me know in the comments below. Or if you'd rather see like 3 or every 6 months or something to the effect. Let me know. I do plan to keep you guys updated on what I'm reading in that book club and how I felt about it. And I will talk to you guys soon.